All right, everybody, welcome to the big show. I am super duper and triplicate excited to have Joe Watson in the house, and all of you fine folks. Thanks for being here. My name is Mark Moyer, and you're in the Clubroom, brought to you by the Win Again Academy. Just a quick little 2 words about myself. I've been coaching athletes and executives for 2,412 years, all about helping them really transition from, whether it's, if you're an athlete, from your sport to what's next in your next great career where you can become elite all over again, whether it's in business or a career. And working with executives also make transitions from either one career to another or one job to another. And one of the things that I really like to focus on is the absolute importance of all of this networking stuff. It's absolutely critical. So when you're doing your conversations today, please make sure to talk to each other, not just about stories and this and that, but also talk a little bit about how you can use some advice and some help on some things. Everybody, once they get more comfortable talking to each other, will want to talk a little bit more about some of the things that they just simply want some help with. But at the same time, make sure you offer your help and your network to everybody else. I'm going to bring in Joe Watson, and I'm going to do the intro first, and then I'll bring Joe in. So I was introduced to Joe a couple weeks ago. What a personality, what a great guy. So he was born in British Columbia. That is up that way. Just drive straight up and then hang a left and go a long ways. And that's how you'll find British Columbia. He started his professional career in hockey with the Bruins organization, but like everybody else, he hated Boston. And am I allowed to say that? And went to Philly and played there for 11 years. 11 years, man, that's a long career. That's a long time. Then he won a couple of Stanley Cups. And he played with his younger brother, Jimmy, which had to be super duper exciting. And then in 1976, they played against the Soviet Red Army. Back in those days, everyone was scared of those rat bastards. Oops, sorry. And he scored a shorthanded goal, which freaked everybody out, especially the Russians. And his coach, Fred Shiro, basically said that he was responsible for setting hockey back 25 years in Russia. And let me tell you something, that country hasn't been the same since, I think. He got traded to the Rockies, or he signed with the Rockies, and was there for 11 seconds, maybe a little bit more, broke his leg in about 1,000 different places. So he had to, unfortunately, that led to his retirement. But what that started, because he had developed friendships, and we'll talk about this in a few minutes, with the Flyers front office. And he ended up working with the Flyers for 41, I think maybe more than that, years. Maybe it was like 48 million years, a long time. And guess what? He just retired this week. So you can congratulate on him on that in a little bit. But he's spent enormous amounts of hours trying to grow the sport of hockey in the region there. Tons and tons of hours with philanthropic stuff. Super great guy. And we're going to talk about a bunch of things. But oh my God, that's the world's longest intro. Sorry about that. And I'm going to bring Joe in right now. So Joe, come join us.
Holy gosh.
So is it true, though? Is it true that you hated Boston as much as I do? You don't hate anything. You're such a nice
Boston and Philadelphia are very similar. The fans are very rabid fans. They like their sports. And all you have to do is give an effort out there, and they appreciate your efforts. And that's what I try to do whenever I played. And it worked out well for myself. Only I didn't spend a lot of time in Boston. I was only there a full year, and then I came to Flyers. And like you mentioned, I was here 11 years. And ended my career, and I was in Colorado, traded to Colorado in 78, ended my career after 16 games, and came back to the Flyers and worked there, worked for the organization. Comcast owned us now, and I worked there till last Thursday, and I retired. And I don't know if I'm enjoying retirement life because there's no golf going on right now, so I'm trying to get other things to keep me occupied.
Well, there's golf going on, just not where you are.
Yeah, right.
But so look, a couple things I want to talk about today, real quickly, and because look, everybody, we talk about it all the time, but athletes, while they're playing, they don't necessarily listen to it. And what I mean by that is that every athlete, there's 100% retirement rate. Everybody retires at some point, and a lot of times it happens because your skills diminish over the course of your career and over the course of time, or there's other younger players coming in to take your spot, or you just decide you've had enough. But sometimes it happens, like in your case, with a career-ending injury. And, you were still playing at the top of your game, or almost at the top of your game. But tell me a little bit about sort of a little bit about what got you through that, because, it happens. I mean, did you feel like right away you kind of knew, oh crap, or were you told that? What happened?
Well, I was going back for a puck in our zone, being a defenseman. I stretched out to reach for the puck, and as I stretched out, one of the St. Louis players pushed my lower back, and I exploded the boards, and my right leg was shattered. The bone came right through the sock, hockey sock, which I wasn't aware of initially till the linesman showed up, and he said, "Joe, you okay?" I said, "I don't know." He said, "No, you're not." So I laid there. I said, "What do you mean I'm not?" He said, "No, you're not. Just keep your head down. You're okay." And my bone came right through the hockey sock.
Wow.
And, it was very difficult to accept. I wondered why that happened to me. What a way to end my career, because I was only 36 at the time, and I wanted to play 14 or 15 years in the league, and I was my 14th year, and hopefully would have got 15 in. And but I laid in the hospital 6 weeks in St. Louis and had numerous operations. Then they flew me back to Philadelphia, and Mr. Snyder, the owner of the Flyers at the time, says, "Listen, Joe, why did you want to go to Colorado?" I said, "Well, I wanted to play because the Flyers wanted to keep me around and play 35, 40 games a year and help the young guys, break the young guys in." I said, "No, I can still play." But anyway, he said, "Well, you shouldn't have. If you hadn't gone, this might not have happened to you, but who knows?" But anyway, the Flyers brought me back, and I started working the organization, and I did some scouting. I traveled the country, world, scouting players, and then in '84 I started selling season tickets. I became very successful at it. In '85 they asked me to start selling advertising, and I didn't know a damn thing about advertising, but I learned from a guy named Ivan Schlickman. He was the only guy that was selling advertising for the Flyers at the time, so he helped me out tremendously, and I just grew from there and became very successful at selling. And I've always learned that the client is always right until you extract the money. Once you get to extract the money out of the client, then you can deal back and forth with them and not agree to everything they want. But initially, you have to agree to things they want before you get the deal, and that's why I've always looked at things. I really have.
Yeah. And well, it's interesting you say that, because one of the things I want to talk about is the whole idea of I think people feel that they need to be experts at sales to be successful at sales, right? Yeah. And I try to say it's the other way around. You need to be an expert listener to be a great salesperson. But what are I think what's important with that story is the whole idea that you went from career-ending injury to a long career with the Flyers organization, partially because you saw the importance of making connections and relationships with some of the people along the way, right?
Yes. Right.
I mean, would you say all the players on your team had relationships with Mr. Snyder and so forth, or not really? Or
Mr. Snyder was a person people. He loved his players. He treated his players royally, and whatever the players basically wanted, he would side in with the players, opposed to the coach. Sometimes when you have a coach, he sides in with management. We had a guy named Freddie Scher who sided in with the players. Mr. Snyder loved them for that, and we always had a lot of support. Mr. Snyder gave us support, whether we were going through a hard time or whatever. He would come down there, and he'd always come to the dressing room after the game and find out how we were feeling, how we were doing, how the family was and everything else. And that's a good personal experience for myself, because when you go through trials and tribulations as an athlete, and sometimes you need a little spirit to pick you up, and Mr. Snyder had that spirit to pick you up. And
well, that's great, because there aren't too many owners that are like that these days, no. Right? No. A lot of them kind of hang out in their suite or their wherever the hell they are, and don't interact. I mean, you have a guy like Mark Cuban who's a little bit different. He's out on the court screaming at all the refs and stuff, but for the most part, most of them kind of hide out a little bit. So in terms of the career transition and stuff, did you sort of always feel pretty comfortable that, I don't want to say you'd be taken care of, but you'd be taken care of by the Flyers and so forth?
I think you have to earn that, and I think I respected the organization enough, and I love my profession as an athlete. I wasn't as talented as a lot of my teammates, but I understood the game and I knew how to play the game. And you know what? I wasn't really a physical guy, although I could be physical every once in a while when you had to. But my job was to keep the puck out of our net and out of our zone because of being a defenseman. And the reason we won, we were successful. We weren't as talented as the Boston Bruins when we beat them in '74. They had more talented players than we had, but we played as a team, not as individuals. That's why we succeeded to be successful. And the same applies when we played Buffalo in '75. We beat Buffalo, and again, they had a very talented team, but we were cocky at that time, and we just knew we were going to win regardless of what happened. And then in '76, we went against Montreal for the finals, and they beat us in the finals of Stanley Cup, and it was very depressing. I lost. My first wife, I told her we're going to go on a holiday to Aruba. We love to go to Aruba, and I told her to make arrangements prior to the last series, Stanley Cup Finals, and we get knocked out. And I said, we're not going to Aruba because holidays are for winners, not losers. He held that against me for a long, long time.
Well, I mean, you probably know this already, but Montreal cheated. So,
well, you know, the Islanders beat us in 1980 when there was a couple bad calls went against us, but you know, they beat us. Yeah.
Well, I only say that because there's a couple of Montreal fans in here tonight. So I
just there are?
Yeah. Oh yeah. We'll point them out later.
Okay.
But listen, before I go much further, everybody has the opportunity to put their Q&A in the Q&A, their questions over there in the Q&A thing. And what I'll do is I'll bring you in sort of one at a time to ask your questions of Joe or myself. And so we'll do that in a few minutes. And Matt, that's a great question. I'll bring you in a sec. But talk to me a little bit about, I know you've been involved also quite a bit with philanthropic work, right? Or I don't know if it's work, right? It's something you enjoy doing, volunteering and so forth. But how do you sort of take that a career as a hockey player and pull that into doing the philanthropic work?
Well, you know what? I think they go together. You know, I feel that I think whatever you put into it, you're going to get out of it. You put a lot into it, you're going to get a lot out of it. And that's the way I looked at it. And I didn't know a darn thing about advertising when I joined the organization. They asked me to sell, and it's funny how I could open doors at the time because I used to go to New York quite a bit and sell magazine ads initially. That's what I started doing, selling magazine ads. And I got my foot in the door, I think, because I was a former athlete, and they remember the Broad Street Bullies in New York.
Yeah,
they hated us in New York. Not many cities like the Flyers, the Broad Street Bullies in those days. But I took that same mentality in my business as I did in hockey in my sport, and I felt, listen, you got $100 in your pocket, and I got $100 in my pocket. May the best man win, and that's the way I always looked at it. And that applies not only in sports but in business. I'm trying to get some money out of you, or hoping, and it worked out very well for myself. In the 35 years of selling for them, I got in a lot of money, probably $45, $50 million of business during those years. Well, I just feel, you know, that the more you put into it, the more you get out of it. If you don't put a lot into it, you're not going to be successful. That's the way I look at things.
That's excellent. So talk to me a little bit about the importance of, while you're playing, to growing your network and to, in other words, you know, a lot of athletes today, they just kind of hang out. They don't really, you know, or they talk to their fans and so forth. But then there's some athletes that really understand the importance of meeting people that will be beneficial to them afterwards. Is that something that you had a chance to do when you were playing, or?
Yes, very much so. You know, when you're successful, everybody wants to hang out with the winner.
Yeah.
And that was certainly we were very aware of that. We've been invited to a lot of functions. Some players accept them, some players didn't. But you're right, we're networking at the same time as we're playing because, you know, our careers are not going to last forever.
Right.
So we're hoping to meet and find people that are interested in baby use services and that. And when I just retired here last week, I got 3 or 4 calls from different people. That there's a company from Canada just came down to Philadelphia, and they're looking for somebody to open doors for them to get some business. This guy approached me, and I said, yeah, I definitely willing to talk to you about this. And there's a guy that I do some speaking appearances. And there's a guy in Lancaster, Pennsylvania. He has about 8 different schools, and he wants me to go speak to the kids and so on and so forth about my experience as an athlete and in the business aspect of it. So I'm looking forward to that. So I'm looking forward to doing things. I can't lay around. I'm only 77, so shoot, I still think I got something to add to my life, and I'm looking forward to my next chapter of my life.
Well, that's awesome. Well, look, I'm going to bring in a couple people to ask you a question directly. I'm going to bring in Matt first, even though he lost the big vote over there, but he was first in line. So Matt, why don't you come in and ask your question of Joe Watson here?
Hey, Joe.
Hey, Matt, how you doing, Matt?
I'm great. I married a Philly girl. Her whole family.
Oh, you did?
Huge fans of the Flyers and all the Philly teams. So
where was she from, Matt, in Philly?
Bensalem.
Oh, yeah, Bensalem, sure, up northeast area. Okay, good.
Yeah.
We played a lot of hockey games up to our alumni team.
Yeah, I'm from New Jersey, so I grew up a Devils fan. But
oh, okay, good.
I support her as long as it's not against my team. My question was sort of like, how do you feel about the new rules as compared to when you played? I know in basketball they always talk about, back in my day, so no fighting anymore and 3-on-3 overtimes. Are you a purist, or you think it's good the direction they're going in?
Well, you know what? I think, Matt, you look at the game today, the game is so fast. My God, these guys go 30, 35 miles an hour in their skates. And if we were top speed, it was 20 miles, which is our top speed. And I like the game. I like the overtime when we win, but when we lose, I don't like the overtime. But I think there's more good scoring opportunities, 3-on-3 hockey, than there is in a 60-minute game. You see 4 or 5 good scoring opportunities on 3-on-3 hockey, opposed to 5-on-5. And I think they had to do something to change the game around, and I think that's been a good benefit for teams. And it's very exciting. You go to a game and you watch overtime, all the people are standing up during the whole 5 minutes of overtime.
They're working on a 3-on-3 league.
I know. I see that. Yes.
And
you know E.J. Johnson? You know E.J. Johnson?
No, yeah. I know Brian Levine has a small piece of it. He's a small piece of the Vegas Knights too.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
They should get off. I think they'll do fine. Favorite, I just always like to ask this question. Slapshot is probably my favorite hockey movie, but Youngblood is a close second. Have you seen those?
Yeah. There was a friend of mine that played for the Flyers. His name was Peter Zezel. And he was in Youngblood. He was in Youngblood with that movie there. And Rob Lowe and him became somewhat friends and everything else. And unfortunately, Peter passed away at 44 years old. It was very, very sad. But yeah, I like Youngblood. I really did. It showed that somebody was tough in that movie. Even though he was 150 pounds, Rob Lowe was tough in that movie. He was.
Enjoy your retirement. Congratulations. And thanks for sharing your stories tonight.
Hey, Matt, thank you very much. Nice talking to you, Matt.
Thanks, Matt. All right, see you. That's great. It's funny. I agree with you that, I'm on one hand, I tend to be a bit of a purist regarding, some of the hockey stuff, but the 3-on-3 is pretty damn exciting. And it's,
whatever.
The only thing I might change is I enjoy the shootout, but I almost feel like I'd rather see the 3-on-3 go another 5 minutes, maybe go 10 minutes with that. And decided, because that's just nonstop sort of 2-on-1s and 2-on-0s and all that stuff. So it's I don't know.
I agree with you there, my friend. I agree with you. I think I'd like to see it till it goes to the end.
Yeah, I agree. Well, we'll see what we can do with that. There, maybe commissioner's office is your next stop. Yeah. All right, I'm going to bring in Chad. Chad's going to he wants to ask you a question as well. Come on in, Chad.
Joe, good to see you again. We had a nice chat early on in our room, but what qualities did you take as an athlete in on your time on the ice that you've been able to transfer over to the front office, and how do you feel that those qualities or things that you learned along the way help with your longevity?
Well, I realized, Chad, that I wasn't as talented as a lot of my teammates, and I had to compensate in ways to be successful. So I put everything I possibly could into my game. My work ethic was very strong, and I've always felt there's 3 words that I developed in my life. They are desire, discipline, and dedication. And I always felt if I developed those 3 words to the best of my ability, I was going to be successful. desire refers to an overwhelming determination to reach a goal, I just felt in order to be successful, I had to work harder than the next person to be, next athlete that I was playing against or whatever. And I always felt that way in business. But those 3 words that I thought I could develop were very instrumental in my success, not only as an athlete, but as a businessman, a business person too. And I still apply that today. Even though I'm at the point now I retired, but I'm still going to work. I'm not going to lay around. I'm not the type of person that can lay around and I have to work. Even though I've done very well for myself as far as a business career, I love to get out and work and get out into communities. I want to deal with some soldiers. I'm a Canadian, but I want to help the soldiers that come back from the war and are having problems. And my wife is heavily involved with the Yellow Ribbon Fund out of Washington, D.C., and she helps. And so I want to get connected with those people and then do some other things at the same time, do some speaking, as well as opening doors for a company that's coming into Philadelphia, a Canadian company from Toronto. So, but I always felt if I developed those 3 words, I would be successful regardless of what it is. And that's why I looked at it, Chad.
Yeah. Well, as an ex-athlete, I congratulate you and applaud you on your successes and in your future endeavors. I'll make sure to always keep my eyes open and my ears open to what you're doing.
Thank you very much, Chad. I appreciate it.
Of course.
Yeah.
My pleasure.
Yeah.
Hey, thanks, Chad. Appreciate it. All right. Good question so far, right?
Yeah.
This is kind of neat how you don't even have to move. People just come right in and ask you. There's this other guy that I don't know if you know who he is or not, but I'm going to have him come in and ask you a question. He's strangely enough, he shares your last name.
Oh, Ryan.
Some guy named Ryan. Yeah, I don't know. Is he? Come on in, Ryan.
Hey, Dad, I had a question for you. When do you think you're going to pay me back for the hockey bets we made in the playoffs last year?
You didn't listen to me properly when I told you who to bet on.
No, I
That's the
didn't.
whole problem.
We didn't have a very successful season in that regard, but I don't want to take up other people's time. I want to publicly congratulate you, Dad, on your career and all of your success. And I'm looking forward to going skiing with you again next winter when you get the vaccine. We haven't had a lot of time together, so I miss all that.
Son, I look forward to that. I always love to spend time with you. You know that.
Yeah.
And,
Yep.
I love you dearly. It wasn't for your mother and I get together 45 years ago, you wouldn't be here. So I'm glad we got together. And,
That's true.
Yeah, it's true, boy.
I will say as an aside, I've gotten a lot of mailman jokes because I'm 6'5" and my dad's 5'10" on a good day. So I've been teased many times. So.
Oh, by the way, it's funny you should say that because my son's name is Ryan.
Oh.
And I do the same thing with him. He's 6'3" and I'm not. So I do the mailman also. So wait a minute. Where is it? Both of us have the same mailman father. I don't know.
Nice.
Anyway. All right. Well, thanks for asking that,
Thanks,
Ryan.
guys.
All right. We'll see you.
Oh boy, Ryan.
All right. So I'm gonna ask. There's someone had a question, and then we'll jump in with a couple of people jumping in here. But someone wanted to ask, talk about the importance of the long relationships and how they do, and how do the Flyers alumni organization and what it meant to you and the other alumni. In other words, when you have long relationships and so forth with the other alums and so on, how does that really impact?
Well, I think it's contacts. You, just like tonight, people are here meeting each other online and so on and so forth. And contacts, you can't have enough contact because the more contacts you have, the better off you have an opportunity to become successful.
Right.
And I know when we play alumni game, we played alumni games. We've been to Europe 9 different times. We played in Hawaii, our alumni team. And the more people you meet a lot of people and you get opportunities. And I think you have to be nice to people too. And we have an alumni team that our Brad Marshall runs our alumni association now. And he's come in and our alumni association has grown tremendously. We probably net about $500,000 a year in events that we do. We do golf tournaments. We do other events. We have these fight nights where people can pay and come to a facility in Philadelphia, and they can watch a fight, and then we'll analyze the fight on with the folks. So
Oh,
but our alumni has really grown tremendously because of Brad Marsh. It really has. He's done a great job.
oh, that's good.
Yeah.
Great. I'm going to bring in Brandy. She has a question for you, and it's a good one. I like this. So Brandy, come on in. Maybe. Come on, Brandy. I think she's got to put a quarter in the on the side of her laptop there. I think she wants to. Well, Brandy, if well, tell you what. While you're trying to figure out how to come on in, I'm going to let's see. I'm going to bring in Jeff to ask a question. Then Brandy will have. If you jump in, you can jump in too. So Jeff's going to ask you, Jeff Embry. I think you know Jeff.
Yeah, Jeff. Sure.
I
wonder where Jeff.
Brandy.
I got in.
All right, go ahead, Brandy.
Sorry, I jumped in front of Jeff. I apologize.
All right, no, Brandy, you get to go first then.
I appreciate that. Good evening, and thank you so much for sharing your stories. My question is, what's the greatest lesson that you've learned in hockey that you use every day that surprised you the most?
Oh boy. Well, I've always looked at things, like I said, I mentioned earlier on, I wasn't really a talented athlete compared to a lot of my teammates. I just felt I had to overcome a lot of things by working hard, understanding the position that I played. I've taken that mentality into the business world, and it's really helped me tremendously. Knowing what I have to do, and my preparation is very important. I had a lot of success selling because of my preparation, and when I did get a call from a client, I'd always check to see what that client did and what the position that person was in. And I think when you go to a meeting with a gentleman and you meet them and you go in the office, you see 4 or 5 pictures on the walls or on a desk, and that might be associated with soccer, basketball, football, or whatever it may be. Then you know that they're first of all, they're a fan of the sports, and you always have some correlation with them as far as discussing that sport, and I think you show interest in the person when you do meet them, and you have to, because you're trying to extract some money from them. So that's worked out very well for me. I think you have to have some good stories to tell them. They always love to listen to stories. Businessmen want to hear stories. Business people want to hear stories. And
okay, so give us your best story then.
My best story. Oh gosh. Oh boy. Well, when
or maybe one you used in a business situation where you're like.
Oh gee, best story. Holy shoot. Well, that's a good question. My best story. Let's see.
Brandy, do you want the best, like, business related, or you want the funniest one? Because I was going to ask him, I was going to turn this to more like, we want to see, I know Joe, so I know his personality, and he when he gets on a roll with stories, man, you can't stop him. So I was the one who asked. I asked about the alumni stuff.
One of the best stories when I watched you when you guys won, and I saw the antics on the field and everything else. I thought that was pretty interesting. When you guys won the championship there in soccer, I thought that was pretty interesting.
We used to do a lot of antics, that's for sure.
Yeah. Well, you know what? The Broad Street Bullies, I don't know if you ever heard of the Broad Street Bullies. We were a very physical team and intimidating team at the time. And I remember going into Boston, and we beat the Rangers in a 7-game series, and we had one day to prepare. We played Sunday afternoon against the Rangers, beat them, and we had to go to Boston next day. And Freddie Sherrill, our coach, picked up, there's a big headline in the Boston Globe, said, "This is anticlimactic. We just beat a better team to get to the finals, and we're going to play for the final of the Stanley Cup." And I looked, I said, "Who the hell made that statement?" And I looked at with our coach, Freddie Sherrill. I said, "Freddie, what are you talking about? We haven't beat Boston in 7 years." And he said, "Joe, we're not going to show them any respect, and we're going to be very physical with them. And what we're going to do, we're going to shoot the buildings are very warm, and we're going to shoot the puck in Orr's corner all day and make him go back and get it. Every time he gets to it, we're going to hit him." and get in his way and make him exert some energy. And you look at that series. I think a lot of people here probably weren't around in those days. That was the early middle 70s. But we shot the puck in Orr's corner all night, and he got worn out. We wore him out the first 3 games he was down today, and the last 3 games he was worn out. And I think that Freddie Shiro implemented that system. The unwritten rule was never shoot the puck in his corner. We don't want him to touch it. Well, we went the opposite. We shot the puck and made him go back and get it. Every time he touched it, we got in his way. And I think that wore him down, and that's why we won. And it's not that we were as talented as Boston; they were a much better team, but we played as a team, not as individuals, and that's why we succeeded. And Freddie Shiro, I don't know if you ever heard of the name, but he was a very intelligent man, but he had a way of doing things. He implemented a lot of things in hockey that coaches do now, and they were mostly had to do with Freddie, but. He was very instrumental in a lot of our success, not only as athletes, but people off the ice too, business people.
Well, I think that speaks volumes about, understanding what you have and then using it to the best of your ability, right?
Correct. Absolutely.
And that tactics matter. You can't just always be the better athlete. I think sometimes in youth sports, especially right now, I think that's something that we all need to examine a little bit closer.
Absolutely right. Absolutely right. Yep.
Thank you so much for sharing.
Oh, fine. Thanks. Nice talking to you.
You too.
Yeah. That a girl. Yeah. Yeah.
How you doing, Joe?
Jeff. Good, Jeff. I wonder where you were.
Yeah. I got on the table. I was in a good conversation, so I knew I'd see you later.
Oh, really? Oh, okay.
Yeah. I'll come find you though. But first, like your son Ryan said, my friend too. Congratulations on your second retirement.
Yeah.
Right. Not the first one.
Huh?
This is not the first one.
No.
Right.
No. I think this is the last one though. I think this is the last one. I'm going to do some work on the side, but not nearly as much as I did. Prior to doing what I do now, what I was doing, we're going to relax a little bit more and do some traveling and play a lot more golf. I did play a lot of golf, maybe 25, 30 times a year, but I'm going to have more time to do that.
No excuses then.
Huh?
No excuses for your score then.
No, you're right. Yeah. So Colgate's not doing bad.
Yeah, they're doing all right. They had a tough weekend a week and a half ago, but they're doing all right. It's it's a weird season, so yeah. But I wanted to. So I was doing. I didn't mean to ask anonymous questions, but I did by accident. But I asked the one about the alumni organization because I know you've talked to me about that and what it means and how the players stay tight and not all of them, but enough of them. But and everyone's been asking serious questions. I want to hear just one of your funny stories because I know you have a lot of those too from back in your playing days too.
Well, a lot of them weren't clean either.
That's all right. There's only adults here.
Oh gosh.
What about the one in the Montreal in the playoffs?
Montreal in the playoffs.
Well, you got a late night knock on your hotel door.
That was in Toronto.
Oh, that was Toronto. Okay.
That was Toronto when we got into trouble on the ice there, and
so tell them what happened on the ice, and then
Well, you know what? We were in the playoffs against the Maple Leafs, and we ended up getting 16 penalties in the first period and a half, and so they scored some goals on their power play opportunities, and I was in the penalty box, and when they scored a goal, their fourth goal. And they were throwing things at me. In those days, they didn't have a screen behind you, or they didn't have a fence. They had big glass, so obviously people could throw things at you. Well, that was a mistake. And so anyway, they score. I go back to our bench. I'm sitting there, and Don Selesky ends up in the penalty box. So I got my head down, feeling sorry for myself. I look up, and I see Selesky's in trouble over the penalty box. So play stops. I jump off our bench, go skating across the ice to the penalty box. I got my stick in a lariat like this, and I jump up in the glass, and I went to hit this fan. With the point of my stick, and I missed him. I hit the cop right in the shoulder. And thank God the cop moved the guy out of the way, because if he hadn't, I probably would hit the guy in the back and on the head and the probably would have done a lot of damage, and I might not be talking to you guys today because of what could have taken place.
Well, the only
anyway, I ended up I was on bed. I went to bed around 2 a.m. after that game, and at 3 o'clock in the morning I got a knock on my door, and I said, "Who in the hell's waking me up at 3 o'clock?" Here was the police. They arrested me. They arrested Don Selesky, Bob Kelly, Mel Bridgman, and myself, and they took us down to the police headquarters to get fingerprinted and all that stuff. And we were there for about 4 or 5 hours. And make a long story short, I had to go to court over that situation. And I'm not that type of guy that looks for trouble and creates a lot of problems on the ice. I just want to play and win. And so I ended up going to court over in Toronto, and I got a 3-year suspension where I couldn't get in trouble on the ice for 3 years, and that wasn't very difficult for me because I wasn't the type of guy that got in a lot of trouble on the ice. I was a penalty killer. I killed a lot of penalties that we took during those years, and so my job primarily was to kill penalties. So I didn't get in a lot of trouble like some of my teammates did. But that's what happened.
They just wanted you guys tired for the next game.
Tired? We were tired, all right. Holy God. But anyway, the next game was back in Philadelphia. And we beat Toronto in that 7-game series. And it was a very physical series. You're right. It was physical. Holy God. And then we went on and we won, and then we went to the finals against Montreal, but Montreal beat us out. But we were a very physical team. I'm not saying we weren't, and we had some guys that got out of hand once in a while, but for the most part, we're just a tough team. We're a tough team to play against. And Freddie used to always say, we got to control 6 areas of the ice, the four corners and the 2 net areas. And we control those areas, we're going to be successful. And that's basically what we did. We had Bernie as a great goaltender, Perron, and he was an angle goaltender, so that worked very well for ourselves.
Hey, I appreciate it, Jeff. Thanks for jumping in here.
Thanks, Jeff.
All right. That's great. So let's do this. We're gonna in a couple seconds, we're gonna bounce back to the tables, and this way you'll have a chance to chat with a few of the other folks that are here. And but before we do that, I guess I wanted to tie in a little bit of the business stuff here for a second. And what I mean by that is, tell me a little bit about some of the athletic sort of mindset and skill set that you bring and brought to your the business side of things, because a lot of times I think that athletes underestimate some of what they bring to the table for business success, right? So what are some of the things that you think, going back, were really instrumental in you becoming good in a business world?
First of all, I think you got to know the product you're selling. Obviously, I mean, if you want to be successful, you must know the product. And honestly, I didn't know much about advertising. I never sold anything in my life, but I learned very well from a gentleman that I worked with for years, and he taught me a lot. But you always remember, the client's always right until you extract the money from them, and then you can dicker back and forth with them on certain situations. But you do whatever you possibly can, because if you don't have clients, you don't have a job. And I thought it was very important for me as a salesman to get to know the person, first of all. Secondly, know what they do, know what things that are interested in. And I'd always, whenever I went to meet somebody, I'd always bring them a gift. Always bring a gift, whether it's a small gift or a big gift. I'd always bring a gift, usually a Flyer sweater or something to do with the Flyers. And because most of the people I was talking to were Flyer fans anyway, or remember the Broad Street Bullies and so on and so forth. I'd always try to bring them something that we had that were sitting around in the office, and I'd always usually bring a jersey. And I'd have their name on the back of the jersey, even though I didn't know them that well.
Oh, that's great.
And I think that really helped me, breaking into being successful as a salesman.
Oh, that's fantastic. Well, listen, I truly appreciate your time coming in here and answering all these questions and so forth. It's been fantastic. And just real quick for everybody else, you can catch the recording of this in the next day or two on the YouTube channel that we got put up, Win Again Academy, where it's got all the videos of all the episodes we've done. Also go to on LinkedIn, follow the company Win Again Academy page. It's got all the updates on all the stuff that's going on. Also, there's a private Facebook page for athletes only, so it's because it's private. whatever that means, but it's private. But thanks for being here, Joe. I really appreciate it. And we're going to bounce back to the tables in a sec and do some more chatting there. Thanks so much.
Take care, my friend. Thank you very much for having me.
Of course. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Thanks for being part of the Clubroom event today. It's been great having you on board. Check out all the resources available to the Win Again Academy. Go to the website, markmoyer.com, and you'll see all the previous events, podcast episodes, articles, and so much more. Check it out. And look, if you're an athlete, if you're an entrepreneur and a founder or an executive looking to elevate your game and really take your business and your career to a whole new level, consider becoming a Win Again Academy member. We'd love to have you on board because you get access 24/7 to an incredible Slack community of other members where you can really elevate your network and meet some really impressive people. You'll also get a personalized copy of my book, Win Again, the job search handbook for athletes and non-athletes looking to really transform their life and their career. You'll also get seamless entry into the Clubroom events. And these events are absolutely amazing. Table-to-table networking, conversations with everybody at your own pace. It really is fun, but also incredibly great for your network. You've got to check those out. You'll also get discounts to future VIP events that we've got lined up. So consider joining, be a part of this community, be a part of that Slack channel, come to these events. You'll meet some amazing people. Go to markmoyer.com/join-today and take advantage of all the things that you have to offer for an incredibly, incredibly great price. Check it out. We'd love to see you there and see you in the Clubroom soon. Thanks.